Well, that was the Las Vegas Grand Prix of 2025. If you managed to get up early, well done. And if you managed to stay awake, even more of a well done, because that was a very... Yeah, that was interesting. And I haven't done one of these videos in a little while, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which I tried to do a little while ago, but sort of didn't. They take so long to do, but I'm bringing this to you now effectively live with minimal notes. And I'm thinking later about turning this into kind of a live stream where you guys can kind of get involved and let me know what you think against what I think. Let me know in the comments if that sort of thing would be cool. But here we are now. It's good, the bad, and the ugly, and the cup of tea of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Let's get into it. So I'm going to kick things off in quite an obvious way and go with Max Verstappen as the first good of this Grand Prix, because of everyone, who else deserves this? Starting from second on the grid, showed Lando Norris who's the boss in the first corner, and that was kind of the last anyone saw of him. Held it together on the tyres, managed his race well, just did everything as Super Max is expected to do. And I know now that a title challenge is... It's so close, but so far you dare talk about it, especially what's happened with McLaren, which I'll get into later on. Yeah, Max has shown us that if he really has to, he can smash it in these last two races if he needs to. So from my point of view, Max, more of the same. Spice this title challenge up a little bit as it's kind of fizzled out. Let's have a very close run-in into the final race. Now, second up here, I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton, who happened to turn an absolutely horrific weekend into quite an excellent one. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a fantastic recovery drive. He took full advantage of that whole palaver in the first corner, made a load of places off that, and just executed things perfectly, and also took massive advantage of the disqualifications. See what I did there towards the end? And yeah, points. Well done, Lewis. I know you said he said that he's had the worst. This is the worst season of his life so far in that Sky interview. I don't know if you've seen that, but yeah, fair play to Hamilton. He pulled out something out of the bag there, I think. And you know what? Another guy who had a fantastic comeback drive was Kimi Antonelli. You know, from having that apparent jump start, you know, it was a jump start that the human eye couldn't even detect. It was something that was detected all by sensors and everything. So, I mean, that was seriously unlucky for him. But even still, that didn't affect him. He had an absolutely phenomenal race and didn't let that get to him at all. And because of that whole thing, Mercedes and Antonelli adopted this risky strategy, this plan B, and it completely paid off for them. And to be fair to him, Antonelli is really kind of coming into his own now. He's really shaken off this whole rookie, you know, not so sure of things, I'm going to stay in my place thing that he had at the start of the season. So, you know, if he keeps going like this, George might have something to worry about next year. George might have to stay on his toes if Kimi Antonelli keeps going the way that he is. And now my last pick for the good, I'm going to go with no other than Carlos Sainz, who, starting from third in a Williams, credit to him in, I know it's wet and everything, but that was phenomenal. Absolutely brilliant qualifying. But then during the race, of course, he wasn't going to be able to hold his own in dry against, you know, Mercedes, Ferraris, things like this. So he held it together, made the best of what he had, managed his race, kept it clean, and then crossed the line seventh, hauling in some amazing points for Williams. But then, you know, luck would have it towards Sainz, gets bumped up to fifth. Quality day for Sainz. And when you think about it, what a massive turnaround for him, considering the start and the shakiness that he's had at Williams, where, you know, Albon was looking like the top guy. Well, you know what? Sainz has put in some proper shifts recently, and I'm very interested to see how Sainz is going to do in the next couple of races, and also to see how he's going to pull things out for 2026. Sainz at Williams, definitely one to keep an eye on. And now we have to delve into the pit of despair as we head into the bad of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And unfortunately, this pit of despair that I'm talking about is filled with this stagnant water of McLaren and Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. So where do I start with this? So I'm going to kick things off with Lando Norris. So I know that he qualified on pole, looked absolutely heads-on favourite to win, but was far too aggressive at the start of the race, tried to pull a very, you know, uncharacteristically dangerous and bold move, but Max had his number completely, and as soon as he lost the lead in the first corner, that was it. He wasn't to see that again. And credit to him, he did catch George Russell to finish second on the podium, despite having to slow down towards the end. But we all know what happened after that. And just before I get into what happened after that, let me just cover Oscar Piastri. I'm going to be completely honest here about Piastri. Absolutely rubbish race, considering he's in a title fight at the moment. There wasn't a... Okay, I can't honestly think of a single good thing about Piastri's weekend. It was an absolute disaster because, okay, if he's a McLaren number 2 driver, fine, okay, he did all right, but he's in a title chat. He's in a title fight. He's supposed to be, if Norris is on pole, Piastri is supposed to at least be second. He's supposed to be there, but I don't know if he's lost his head, lost his confidence, or perhaps even lost interest in this season. Who knows? But Piastri, whatever's going on at McLaren, Piastri has got to make it count in these final 2 rounds if he's going to stand any chance of giving Norris a challenge. And what makes things worse is that he's now on equal terms with Max Verstappen. An absolutely amazing development, but we'll just have to wait and see where this goes. And then that neatly brings us on to McLaren, the team on the whole, who have absolutely blown it this weekend. Being disqualified from the race due to apparent excess wear on the skid plates, which affects the ride height and things. It's a very interesting one because at the end of the race, Lando Norris wasn't looking particularly pleased or impressed. And actually, come to think of it, Max Verstappen and his engineers covering their mouth like this, you do wonder if both parties, Red Bull and McLaren, both knew exactly what was going on. And classic case of how we've seen McLaren through this season. From having easily the best car on the grid, they have once again made it so much harder for themselves than it really need be. I know I covered this in a video earlier, but had McLaren backed a single driver, Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri, take your pick, the title would be wrapped up by now completely. But here we are, McLaren, due to all these problems, have to slug it out right up until the end with Red Bull, who apparently have a much inferior machine. However, and I think we can all admit this, Max is easily the far superior driver at this stage. So for McLaren, terrible race, terrible weekend overall for them, and have to do better in these final 2 rounds. Now for my next pick in this section, I'm going to go with Liam Lawson, and it's not because he was bad himself, it's just that he had an incredibly unlucky weekend. He did incredibly well qualifying 6th on the grid. Considering the start of the season, sort of season he's had so far, 6th is amazing for him. But in the opening lap, damaged his front wing, compromised his race, had to pit early, and yeah, what could have been points nailed on for him was a disaster. And from what we hear from all the drivers about how Las Vegas is a horrible track, having to nurse your car around that and not being able to drive flat out and enjoy yourself, it's got to be an awful, awful weekend for him. So Lawson, okay, good effort, really good effort, but better luck next time. Now my final pick for the bad section is Bortoleto, because what on earth was he thinking with that kind of start? And it was really weird because I don't know about you, but I was watching the race live, of course, and you're watching, the action through the first corner with the leaders, Max and George Russell, Lando Norris, and then all of a sudden I noticed that Lewis Hamilton was up to like 14th or 13th or something, and I thought, wow, he's had an absolutely amazing opening lap. But little did we know, Gabriel Bortoleto had kept his foot in and torpedoed it into the first corner, causing a huge mess. And yeah, it's the sort of thing you'd expect from a Latifi or a Mazepin from yonks ago. And it's a bit of a letdown, to be honest, because Bortoleto has actually had a very, very good season. He's kind of proved a lot of doubters wrong. He surprised a lot of people. And I think he's, made a case for himself to be at that team or Audi for years to come. But, something like this, yeah, you got to really kind of wonder what was going through his head. So yeah, Bortoleto, not really that good enough. Right, everyone. Okay, we've got to now do the ugly of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And yeah, given what we saw, this is really ugly. Now, the thing is, when you watch the Las Vegas Grand Prix, you've got to kind of expect that there's going to be a little extra sprinkling of, you know, razzmatazz collaborations and all this sort of thing. It's just, it comes with the territory. You have to accept that. And if you do, you'll enjoy it a little bit better. So at the start of, before the race, there was this stuff with Mickey and Minnie Mouse. Okay, fine, whatever, be that what it is. It's the start of the race. Anything kind of goes, I suppose. And then once the race had ended, they all hopped into that Lego pink Cadillac with Terry Crews. Okay, yeah, that's kind of fun, because Lego did that stuff before, and okay, I know Vegas do this thing where they have to transport the drivers from point A to point B. I think it's outside. Is it the Bellagio Hotel? But anyway, that was kind of okay. That's fine. Takes a bit long though. That drive between from Parc Ferme to that. And, the adrenaline and all that buzz and hype kind of, from the viewer's perspective anyway, drips away. It takes a bit too long. To which then we were all treated to a dance routine from Mickey Mouse. And do you know what? I've been watching F1 a long, long time. And that was a new low, I think. You're kind of watching it thinking, is this really happening? Is this really a Grand Prix that we're watching? Sure, this isn't Nickelodeon or something. But you know what this whole thing made me think? And honestly, guys, if you're watching, please let me know what you guys think in the comments, because I'd really love to know your views on this. Watching that Mickey Mouse thing after the Las Vegas Grand Prix, all I was kind of thinking there, I was just thinking, do you know what? I really wish I was watching the Monaco Grand Prix now, because that would have a sense of class and style about it, because whatever this is just wrong. They're putting all this effort into the show with Mickey Mouse and Lego and all this stuff. Meanwhile, they can't even weld down a drain cover properly. Like they're focusing on all these grand things, but all these little minor details they're getting wrong. And also fair play to Ollie Behrman earlier in the weekend for coming out and saying, no, I don't enjoy the track actually. It's not particularly enjoyable to drive around. It's not a very good street circuit. And yeah, and I can just imagine all the people at F1, panicking because they're saying, no, Ollie, that's not in the script. You're not supposed to say that. And you know what? Say what you want about Bernie Ecclestone, but this never would have happened under his watch. There are some things I think in Formula One which should be sacred, which is purely just for the show of Formula One, where no corporation, business, whatever, how much money need to get involved in the way that has happened with Disney. Formula One shouldn't bow to anybody, because it is, in my opinion, the greatest sport in the world, and it shouldn't need to sink to levels like this. And I don't know about you guys, but if you guys watch, movies and TV and shows and things like this, you might have noticed that anything Disney has touched in the last 20 years has turned to complete crap. It really, really has. And I don't know how involved Disney's going to be with Formula One now over the next 2 or 3 years, considering this new tyre, but it is concerning, I think. In football, particularly English football, there's this fantastic phrase people say where the game's gone. And just so you know what I'm talking about, I'm going to get the meaning and definition here of game's gone for you, perhaps international folks. So anyway, game's gone is a phrase used to express dissatisfaction with modern football, suggesting its authenticity and rawness have been lost due to the commercialization and new rules. Well, sounds a lot like Formula One. I don't know if there is a phrase like game's gone for Formula One, but in Formula One's case, yeah, guys, game's gone. But even still, this is why it's more important to keep watching and show the support and not let this sort of thing stop you from watching, basically. I know it sounds ridiculous because I'm complaining about it, but also at the same time I'm saying don't stop watching, because that doesn't make sense. But now, unfortunately, I need to bring this to a close. So I really want to hear your opinions on this. Let me know what your thoughts were about the Grand Prix and everything that we saw. That was probably the ugliest of the ugly, but hopefully it can't get any worse than that. So guys, hope you enjoyed. Let me know in future if you want me to make this a live stream or something, as I'd really love to connect with you. But anyway, see you later. Cheers.